In this video, we will discuss aviation. There's no doubt that aviation in context of greenhouse gas emissions is quite a controversial topic. Aviation overall accounts for only 2.5% of global carbon dioxide emissions. This is because this sector faces large inequalities in how much and how frequently people fly. Many don't or cannot afford to. The second is how aviation emissions are attributed to countries. CO2 emissions from domestic flights are counted in a country's emission accounts. And now, fun fact. International flights do not count towards emissions of a particular country, but instead they are counted as their own category that's called bunker fuels. Because the emissions do not count towards the emissions of any country, there are few incentives for countries to reduce them. Global aviation, including domestic and international passenger and freight, accounts for 1.9% of greenhouse gas emissions, which includes all greenhouse gases, not only CO2, 2.5% of CO2 emissions, and 3.5% of effective radioactive forcing, which is a closer measure of its impact on warming. Effective radioactive forcing, ERF, represents the increase or decrease since pre-industrialization times in the balance between the energy coming from the sun and the energy emitted from the Earth, known as the Earth atmosphere radiation budget. The problem with effective radioactive forcing is that most calculations do not take it into the account. The consequences of non-CO2 aircraft emissions at high altitudes come to prominence a couple decades ago. Some researchers argue that the total historic impact of aviation on climate has been larger than for CO2 emissions alone. Although there seems to be consensus among the scientific community that air traffic affects the climate through emissions other than just CO2, putting a number on these emissions and their impact has proven to be challenging. As you can see on this image, the impacts on climate from aviation are rather complex and hard to measure and fully analyze. Although aircrafts emit harmful particles throughout their entire operation, the emissions released at high altitudes cannot be offset in any way by, for example, planting trees like it is the case on the ground, and they are released straight to the atmosphere. I invite you now to pause here for a moment to take a closer look at these interactions. Global emissions from aviation have increased a lot over the past half century. Aviation emissions have doubled since mid-1980s. However, air travel volumes increased even more rapidly. Air traffic volume, here defined as revenue passenger kilometers, RPK, traveled increased by orders of magnitude more, almost 300-fold since 1950 and 75-fold since 1960. The growth of emissions did not happen as rapidly as aviation efficiency has seen substantial improvements. These improvements have come from design and technology of aircrafts and larger sizes of aircrafts that allow to carry more passengers per flight. I would like to bring your attention to the term passenger load factor, as it measures the actual number of kilometers traveled by paying customers as a percentage of available seat kilometers, and ASK stands for the kilometers traveled if every plane was full. If every plane was full, the passenger load factor would be 100%. If only 3/4 of the seats were filled, it would be 75%. The global passenger load factor increased from 61% in 1950 to 82% in 2018. To cap the growth of the sector and seek alternatives, some governments have taken action. In April of 2021, French government has banned short-haul flights. The new bill argues to forbid conventional air travel where there is an alternative by train that takes under 2.5 hours. Germany is also looking to reduce the environmental impact of domestic travel by replacing some domestic flights with trains. The idea is to offer more high-speed rail connections on routes currently only served by short-haul flights and make the mode switch from plane to rail attractive. In the meanwhile, aviation sector has been also working on minimizing their carbon footprint. To find out more about the behind-the-scenes work in this sector, I would like you to listen to a short interview with an expert in aviation, Professor Yu Zhang, who is a professor at the University of South Florida and chair of Transportation Research Board Airfield and Airspace Capacity and Delay.